Good morning, everyone. We're starting Daf Yomi today. We're on Daf Yomi. The Daf is on the Daf Daled. Be'ez Hashem will be there. Be'ez Hashem one day. 53a. About 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 13 lines from the top. Ba'a minei. First one on the line is Zinavoy. Ba'a minei Rav Asi bar Rav Nosson me Reb Chia bar Rav Ashi. Rav Asi bar Nosson asked from Reb Chia bar Rav Ashi, Ma oliten madas agabe chamar b'Shabbos. May one place this cover that they would place on the donkey on Shabbos? Now, what's the issue here? Why wouldn't you be able to do that? Some learn the problem is because you might come to lean on the animal. Others learn that the problem is because it's tircha yetera. It is extra work, exertion. That's not for Shabbat. There's a third way of learning, maybe of masui, that since it's not tied, maybe he'll let it out through Shotarabim. We're going to learn more with the tircha yetera now. That's mashman in Rashi. That's his question. Are you allowed to do such an act that's exerting a lot of effort? Mutar. What's the difference between this and ukaf? Ukaf is the saddle, and that's asura. Now, we'll see soon how he knew that placing an ukaf was asur. But he's saying, you're not allowed to put down the saddle, so why are you allowed to put on the mardat? Ishtik. So Rav Chia bar Ashi was quiet. Rav Asi bar Nosson thought that the reason for his silence was because he was just ignoring the question, as if to say, that's not a question, ukaf is mutar. You're asking me ukaf is asur? So why is mardat mutar? He's quiet because he's ignoring me, because he holds ukaf is also mutar. So he said to him, Eitve, I have a question to ask you. You think it's mutar? It says, Ukaf shal gabe chamor in a braita. Lo yutal talena biyado. Ela molicho meviya bechatzer. V'hu nofel me'elav. The ukaf on the chamor, you should not move it with his hand. Okay, he wants to take it off because he wants the animal to be able to cool off. Okay. Now, taking it off is either because it's muktzah or because it's too much effort to take it off. But what you could do is you could make it move back and forth in the chatzer until it moves so much that it will fall off by itself. Now, so this braita is saying that taking off the saddle is asur. So now make a kal v'chomer. Hashta lital amrit lo lehaniach mi boi. If to take it off is asur, so for sure placing it upon it should be asur. Because placing it has two issues. One is the effort, and one is that it looks like you're placing a masui on top of it. So therefore, for this braita, Rab Asi bar Natan is proving that placing on ukav a saddle is for sure asur. And therefore he's back to his question to Rav Chia bar Ashi, if placing the saddle upon the animal is asur, why should placing the blanket underneath the saddle be any different? Omar le Rabbi Zeira, Shavke. Rabbi Zeira told Rav Asi bar Natan, leave Rav Chia bar Ashi alone, which means he doesn't have to worry about your problem. Why? Because Kirabe Svirele, Rav Chia bar Ashi will follow his Rebbe's teaching, which was Rav. The Omer Rav Chia bar Ashi Omer Rav Tulin Traskel Be'im B'Shabbos the Kal V'Chomer L'Mardat. Now, Rav didn't say the Kal V'Chomer part, but Rav did say. It seems like Rav only said the first part. You're allowed to hang a basket on the animal's neck on Shabbat in Reshut HaYachid so that he can eat from it pleasantly, and he doesn't have to bend down to the ground. So that, says Reb Zera, if Rav allowed that, it would be a kal v'chomer l'mardat. It would be a kal v'chomer to the madat, that you're allowed to place the madat on it. Why? What's the kal v'chomer? Uma'ata mishum de tanug shari hacha mishum de tsar lo kol shkein. If over there was for pleasure, yeah, we make it easy. We make your meal even more pleasant than. You don't have to bend down. We'll make it even more pleasant. We'll hang it. That's okay. So here, mishum de tsar lo kol shkein. Here that we're putting the madat so that it should warm up and it shouldn't be cold. For sure, Rav would allow you to place the blanket on. Now, what were you going to do with the Braita before? That said you're not allowed to place an ukif. And so the answer is that Rav doesn't have to worry about that Braita because the Rav was a tonahu polig. Which means that even though Rav's status was an Amora, but he's able to argue with the Braita. And therefore he's saying basically it's a machloket. Rav didn't worry about your question, Rav went for it, no problem. Shmuel Amar, Shmuel says, Madat mutar, traskal asur. Shmuel says, I agree that you're allowed to place the blanket on the chamor because that's going to take away tzitzar. But I don't agree with Rav that the traskal, the basket that makes the animal be able to eat easily because it's hanging on its neck, that you're not allowed to put it on the animal on Shabbat. Why? Precisely because of the difference that the Gemara just made the kal v'chomer, because the traskal is only l'ta'anug and not l'tzar. Ozar Reb Chiya bar Yosef amar l'shmaita to Rav kamei d'Shmuel. Reb Chiya bar Yosef went and told this hearing of Rav that it's actually mutar to place a traskal, and he told him that he told it to Shmuel. Now Shmuel we just said argue with that. Omar leis Shmuel told Reb Chiya bar Yosef, Ihochi Omar Abel liyoda b'milu d'shabtav lo klum. If this is what my friend said, he called him Abba. Abba was a way of saying friend. Others say because Abba was his name. There's many different pshatim of why he called Rav Abba. Either Abba is a lashon of friend, like Avreich, that's Yosef HaTzadik is called that. Or Abba means father, like Kavod. He gave like much honor to him. He called the father, because he was the greatest in the generation. The Gemara says that Rav was even greater than Shmuel. Even though Shmuel was greater in Mammon, more than Isurim, but altogether, Rav was the greatest. And he called him that, or because that was his name. But they didn't want to call him his name, Reb Abba, because they wanted to give him the title of honor. They called him Rav, like Rabbi, Yehuda Nasi, Rav. So Shmuel called him Abba, but he says he doesn't know anything about Hilchot Shabbat. If he said that a traskal is mutar, he doesn't know Hilchot Shabbat. That's what Shmuel said. Kisalik Reb Zeira Ashkich Rabbi Yom Bar Yefet Yativ v'Kamer Rabbi Shmei Rabbi Yochanan Notim Adat Agabe Chamer b'Shabbat Omer LeYishar v'Chein Tigma Ayoch b'Bavel. Reb Zeira went up to Eretz Yisrael. He found Rabbi Binyamin Bar Yefet. They would say over things in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Was saying things to Rabbi Yochanan. And he said, you're allowed to place the blanket on the chamor. So Reb Zeira told him that is very true and straight thinking. And that's what Shmuel, the Aryoch, the Gemara says, Aryoch Manu Shmuel. Who's the Aryoch? Shmuel. The Aryoch means the lion, said the same thing in Bavel. It's a lashon of a king. The king. The king in Bavel said that. Who's the king of Bavel? Shmuel. Because Shmuel was the greatest in halachot of money, monetary things in the entire land. Therefore, he was called the king of the land in these halachot. Okay? Other pshatim are rucha means a doctor, healing, and Shmuel was the great doctor. So the Gemara says, for Rav Nami Amr, Rav also said that you're allowed to place a madat. So why did Reb Zeira not mention Rav's name? Because he heard when Rabbi Yom ben Yefet said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that you're allowed to place the madat, he heard him end off also with the following statement that you're not allowed to hang the teraskel, which is exactly in accordance with Shmuel and not in accordance with Rav, and therefore he said that this is straight and like Shmuel, and he didn't want to mention Rav because Rav allowed you to hang the teraskel. So the Gemara says now, the Kuli Alma Miyit Madat Mutar. Everybody, Shmuel and Rav, holds you're allowed to place the blanket. Mai Shno Me'ukaf. L'maisa. Why is it different than the ukaf? The ukaf you can't place. The ukaf is the saddle. It also warms it up. And the Gemara says, right? The Gemara says, Shani Hatam, the Efsha Denafel Memelo. Now, where do we know that you're not allowed to place the ukaf? Because we learned it as a kavachomer from the fact that you're not allowed to take off the ukaf. If you can't take off the ukaf, you for sure can't place the ukaf on top of it. So the Gemara says, you know why you can't take off the ukaf? The efshar dinafil mimela. Because it's possible for it to happen by itself. Like the Gemara says, you walk it back and forth until it falls off. Therefore, since you're able to take it off without your hands, so therefore they didn't allow you to do it with your hands. But something else that the chamor needs, you can't do without using your hands, like placing the blanket on it, there they weren't so machmir to prohibit it. That's one answer. Rav Papa Omar kan lechamamo kan litzanana. Placing the mardat, that is an action that will warm it up. Taking off the ukaf, what is the benefit of that action? Litzanana, to cool it off. That's why there's a difference. Why? The chamama itlatzara. If you don't warm up a donkey, it has a lot of pain. So therefore, in order to save it from its pain, the chachamim allowed a person, even though there was an effort and exertion, to warm it on Shabbat. But things that you do to cool off the donkey, like taking off the saddle, litzanana, let latzara. There, if you don't do that, you don't take off the saddle, don't worry about it. He's not going to have that much pain of being so too hot. Do you know why? Because the donkey, the longer it takes him to get really cold, the better. You know why? Because donkeys are always extremely cold. So if it leaves on its sweater a little longer after it worked hard and whatever, walked, and now it's time to take off the saddle, big deal. It's not going to be so bad for it. You know, like your mothers, they don't take off their sweater so fast. They don't take off their sweater so fast. They get home in the winter, in the cold. For those of us who don't live in Florida, they leave the coat on a little bit. They leave the thing because they know that right after they take it off, they're going to go very fast. They're going to be freezing. Like the Gemara says, "V'hainu damri inchi chamra afilu b'tkufa Tammuz krirele." A chamor, even in the season of Tammuz, the hottest season of the year, it's always cold for it. And therefore, it's not such a big deal if you don't take off the madat, the ukaf, and therefore you don't take it off. Okay? So now, let's continue. So the Gemara says now, we brought down that Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan both say that even though you're allowed to place the blanket on the chamor, you're not allowed to hang the basket on the animal of on Shabbat, because there you're not saving it from any pain, but rather, what are you doing? You are just oneg. You're making it more pleasurable. Meitvei. So the Gemara asks from a Braita, lo yetze hasus biznav shual. The Braita lists a whole bunch of things that you're not allowed to go out with on Shabbat, the animals, and a bunch of things that you could. So it starts off like this: lo yetze hasus biznav shual. The horse, Yaakov, you ready for this Braita? You're going to understand it very well. Let's pay attention. You're not allowed to let the horse go out to Reshut Rabim on Shabbat biznav shual. Znav shual is the fox's tail, which they used to put in between the eyes of the horse, in order to protect it from ayin hara. Okay? And the reason why I can't do it is because it's a masui, it's not a malbush. Again, it's a weight and it's not clothing. V'lo b'zaharurit shebeinav. They used to put some sort of red thing in like red string between its eyes for beauty. And even if you go with some shitot that say that for beauty is already considered malbush, but that's only if it's normal. But this wasn't such a normal thing. Therefore, it's considered a weight. Lo yetze azav b'kis shelo. The zav was the person who had an emission from a certain tumah, from his brit. He can't go out with a cup in order to that it shouldn't drip. So, and why? And he had to know when it was dripping, when it was coming out, in order for him to figure out this calculation of how many times he saw the tumah, so that he should know how many days to count, Yom Keneged Yom, or 7 days, last week's parsha, and the last week's parsha. But he can't do it because it's not a beged and it's not an ornament. So it's just a cup that's hanging there. For him to calculate something, that's a master, it's a weight. So lo izim b'kish shebedadein, and the cup on the udders of the goats, either it was there to catch the milk, so it's a weight, or it's there to protect the udders from getting scratched by thorns. But either way, actually they say that if it's there to catch the milk, it's a masui. But if it's there to protect the udders, we said the shmira for the animal is to be considered a malbush. So they say because it wasn't placed on tightly, and these things would fall sometimes, and therefore it was a v'derabana that you might come to pick it up and carry in Rishut Rabbi. V'lo para b'chason shebefiyah, and not the cow with the bit in its mouth. Why not? Because it wasn't really protecting the animal. It protects other things from the animal, the fields of others. So that's carrying. This is the main line here. V'lo siachim b'traskolim shebefiyim l'shut rabim. And young little donkeys, I don't know what they call them in English. Sayach is a baby donkey, cannot go out with the baskets in their mouth to Rishut Harabim, because they are a masui. V'lo behema b'sandal sheberagleha. And remember that line, by the way. But v'lo behema b'sandal, remember everything. V'lo behema b'sandal sheberagleha. And the animal can't go out with these what do they call them? The horseshoes, yeah. On its feet. Okay? And the reason is because they also would slip off many times, even though it's being done for the protection of the animal and should be considered a malbush, but they would slip off, and you might come to carry them. V'lo b'kameah, and not with some sort of amulet that was written for the refuah that they would hang on it. Afa pishu mumche, even though this kameah was proven to heal already 3 times. Okay? And this is more strict by an animal than a person, meaning to say that a person, when you have an amulet that is proven, the Mishnah says later on that it's okay for him to walk out on Shabbat for refuah. But what could you go out with the animal? You could go out be'eged shel gabe hamaka, with a bandage on a wound. V'kashish shel gabe hashever. That's a malbush, and with like sticks that were placed next to a broken bone on the animal so that it holds the bone in place. And even if they fall off these little sticks, people don't pick them up because they're junk. The sack that's to hang it out of it a little bit. So since it's still attached halfway to the animal, it's considered part of the animal. And you're allowed to stuff the bell. Stuff the bell with some sort of cotton or wool, so it doesn't make any noise on Shabbat, because on Shabbat you can't make noise. And then you can walk around with it in your chatzer because it's not making noise. Reshut Rabim, you can't go. Why not? Because it looked, even though it was for its beauty and that's part of the malbush, according to many, but since it looked like you were going to sell it, because when they walked around with bells, it was like for everybody to know that it's for sale and it's going to the market, so they didn't let you take it to the Reshut Rabim, but you could walk around in your chatzer with it. Fine. Ktani miyat, it does say, however, in the middle of the Braita, you can't take out the baby donkeys with the baskets to Reshut Rabim. The Reshut Rabim udolo, habechatzer shapedami. It sounds like you can't walk around with them in the Reshut Rabim with the baskets. But in the chatzer, you could. My love, bigdolim umishum tanug. Isn't it talking about already grown up baby? It doesn't mean grown up entirely because it says babies, but it means like older children, right? Like Yaakov. There's two types of children, right? There's like your little sisters, and there's the big children. So the large donkeys, umishum tanug, and it's telling you that if you do something for the tanug of the behemoth, you're allowed to do it on Shabbat, right? So why is Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan saying you're not allowed to hang the basket so it can eat for tanug? He said, it's tanug, but you see here for tanug it's okay. So the one says, lo b'ktanim u'mishum tsar. We're talking about baby real babies, and they cannot bend down easily. It's painful for them, and therefore this is removing pain, and therefore it's okay. Dekanami, and we can even be medayek. If we're careful, you could be medayek. You can infer this carefully from the Braita, the Ketani, because it mentions Dumya the Kemeya Shmamina. Since it's placed near Kemeya, and by Kemeya, the reason why you're allowed to do it is because you're removing the tsar as a refuah for the animal. So too over here, in the case of Teraskel, it's to remove the tsar. Omar Mar. So we go back to the Braita. The Braita said, that you're not allowed to go out with a kameya, even though this kameya was already huchzak. It was proven 3 times that it is a good kameya. Now, why not? The Mishnah says that a human cannot go out with a kameya, an amulet, that's not proven. But if it's proven, it's okay. So if it's not a masui, once it's proven, okay, because it's there for the protection of the person, because it's proven, it's not like a maybe. So therefore, why can't it work for the animal as well? So the Gemara says, here also we're talking about the Braita is saying a kameya that's not proven. But the Gemara says, but the Braita says beferish that it's not talking about when it's not proven. The Braita says even if it's proven, you can't go out. So hence, we're asking the question, why is it different than a person? So the Gemara says, meaning, it is proven for a person. When it says even if it's proven, it means even if this was proven to help a person from maladies. But since it wasn't proven for animals that it helped 3 times, therefore you're not allowed to let the animal go. So the Gemara says, how could it be that something for a person that was proven to help for a person won't help for the animal? And the Ritva explains that even though animals and people are different, have different natures, so why would one help for the other? He says, but the Gemara understands that it means the person that made the person that made the Kemeya has been proven to make good amulets for many times. So therefore we could assume that he's doing a good one for an animal. And the Gemara is saying, how can it be that an animal is less than a person, since an animal has a stronger temperament and much fatter and thicker and stronger than a person? An animal is not as sensitive to the sicknesses as a person is. So the Gemara says, believe it or not, a man has something going for him more than an animal. What's that? Is that a person has mazel. He has a malach that protects him for his good. And therefore, since he has a malach that helps him, so therefore, the kemeya, together with the malach, can speed it up. That doesn't mean you can put it on an animal because it's not a sure bet. On the other hand, a kemeya for an animal also doesn't work for a person because the animal is less sensitive to the maladies than the person. So the Gemara says, So then why does it say in the Braita, this is more strict about an animal than an Adam? It comes out that the way we're explaining the Braita, both of them need a kemeya that's a mumche that's proven for them only, for their species, and not for the other one. There's no real difference. It doesn't really mean what it says in the Braita when it says, even if it's mumche. It doesn't mean even if it's mumche for a behema. It means if it's mumche for the other species. So that's the same halacha by a man. If it's a mumche for the other species, for the animal, it doesn't work. And both of them could go out if it's a mumche for their own species. So why is there any more chumrah for behema more than adam? So the Gemara says, "Misavet kameya koi asandal koi." It's not going back on the case of kameya; it's going on the sandal. That a person can wear a sandal because they would tie them very well, but the horseshoes that they would place on these animals, they would slip off. And a person also, when he feels it slipping off, he would tighten it. Okay, so now the Gemara goes back to. So he said that what? That anything that placing the mardat, the blanket on the animal, to protect it from getting cold, from tsar, is okay on Shabbat. That effort, that exertion is okay. Toshima. Let us bring a proof from a Braita. Not so. Sochin u'mefarchisin le'odom. You're allowed to anoint a wound with oil. U'mefarchisin. Sounds like you break up. That's how many Mefarshim learn. You beautify the wounds, the scars, and the scabs. They are down. The ain't tzachinu mefeches in the behema. But for an animal, this is too much of a tircha. And you have to care more about the human than the animal. Therefore, for a tircha for a man that had to do with his pain and his wounds, that we didn't make any isurim. But if it comes for an animal, and you're involved with tircha yetera, even though it's for his wounds, you can't do it on Shabbat. My love, the ikamako mishum tsar. It doesn't mean that there's a makkah that needs to be healed, and it's for tsar, and still the Braita prohibits it for an animal. So why did they allow one to place blankets on the animal? So the Gemara says, "Lo, the gomer mako mishum tanuk." What we're talking about is, in this Braita, is that the wound already got bettered. Okay? And the Braita is just talking about some sort of tanug that you anoint it with oil. But if it's there for miniyat tsar, then even for a behema it will be mutar. Okay? Rashi says that this is arguing with Rav. Why is this arguing with Rav? Because Rav said that you're allowed to even hang a basket for tanug. So if you explain the Braita over here with tsar, then it will go against even Rav Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan. So the Gemara says, no, it's mishum tanug, and that's why you're not allowed to do it for an animal. But Rav held that for tanug for an animal is okay. So this Braita definitely argues with Rav. Okay, Toshima. Behema. Okay, so then you're fine, says the Gemara. We have another Braita that doesn't sound like you're allowed to remove the tsar of an animal. Because it says, let's say an animal had too much blood, so they had to cool it off in cold water. You can't do it. You can't stand it in cold water. I don't know what it means. In those days, they were very, very busy with dam. Maybe it means high blood pressure. Yeah. How do you know? I don't know. Maybe they knew how to tell. In those days, also everything was about too much. A lot of that. A lot of the hakozas dam was for this. I think it was similar. Bloodletting. I don't know. I don't know if they're busy with this today as much. Maybe it means I don't know exactly what it means, but they would try to cool it off. When it got too filled with blood, that means, I guess, high blood pressure, maybe.
Oil change to the animal.
Exactly, oil change. It was too hot. It was too much, too bubbling. I don't know how they were able to tell. You're not allowed to place it into cold water. Adam she'achzo dam. A man who's gripped with too much blood. You could do that. Now, this is not about tanug. This is about removing the tsar. So you see, now let to do it for an animal. Okay, so the Gemara says, this is a gzeira because of shchikat samemanim. Shchikat samemanim is the gzeira of refuah on Shabbat. Because you might come to grind the herbs and make more medicines. Once we let you involved in medicines, you'll make medicines, which is what they did those days. Making medicines is issur d'oraita, because you're grinding up the herbs. So, anything that is just has just tircha yetera, placing a blanket. So there, it's nothing to do with medicinal things. So therefore, you can't do it. But anything, then you could do it. But anything that has to do with removing the tsar, and it has to do with medicine, it's a medicinal act, like placing it into cold water, there already we don't allow it. Now, so a person also shouldn't be allowed. Why does the Braita say, if a person has it, you're allowed to put him in cold water? We know that you're not allowed to treat a person with medicine on Shabbat. Obviously, if it's pikuach nefashot, you could. But if it's just pain, you can't. There are cases where you could, like if a person is incapacitated, or he's in so much pain that he has to lie down, and all sorts of different heterim. It's a whole world. We're going to learn about it in Shabbat. But it seems like it's the same issue here: the person and the animal. So if the animal is up, right? If the person shouldn't be allowed. So the Gemara says, Adam nirke maker. We don't look at it as medicinal. When you walk into a cold pool on Shabbat or cold water, so what are you doing? When you see that, what do you see? You see a guy cooling off. People don't do that to animals. Oh, you want to go swimming? Maybe today they do. But in those days, if you put an animal in cold water, it means that you're doing a medicinal act with it. Oh, curing. Oh, therefore, there's already gzeira. The Gemara says, well, the Gemara just goes through what I said. The Gemara says, does an animal also look like it's cooling off? The Gemara says, no, ein maker lebehema. There's no cooling off for an animal. So therefore, it looks like refuah. So the Gemara says, behema migazrinon. For a behema, do we make a gzeira if we're going to lose out? Which means, if you're going to lose your animal because of this, do we make gzeirot? B'makam hefsid? When you lose so much money, don't we know that you don't make a gzeira? Where do we see that? Because we see Vatanya hayta umedet chutz hatchum korel hiba. Let's say your animal standing outside of the tchum, right? Person, wherever he rested at the beginning of Shabbat, cannot travel more than 2,000 amot out of that area. And the same thing for the animal. Okay? So, you're not allowed to take your animal more than 2,000 amot. What about if your animal went by itself? That's fine. And now you want to call it back. So you can call it back and it will come. The lo gazrin, we're not worried dilma atilat to, then maybe he'll come to take it. If you're allowed to call it, then maybe you'll go and bring Elsie back in, which would be an istur of bringing it out of the tchum back into the tchum. And why don't we make that gzeira? So we see that the Chachamim did not decree when it comes to losing money. If you don't allow the guy to call the animal back, he might lose the animal. So we leave him alone and we're not gozer gzerot. So here too, we shouldn't be gozer gzerot of refuah if he might end up losing the animal. Okay, now you might say that they're very different. One gzeira is a gzeira that he might come to transgress the Isser Tchum, which is only the Rabbanan. The other one is he might come to do Shchikat Samamini, which is Doraita. How could you compare the two? Maybe that's the answer. So the Ritva says in the name of Tosafot that we're talking about that we're worried there's a gzeira there of carrying the animal, bringing it back in and carrying it in the Rishut Rabim. So it's also Doraita. Anyways, so we see here that we don't make gzeirot when it comes to losing money. Omar Avina kegon shaya tchum shalah muvla betoch tchum shalo, which means that if you give your animal to a shepherd and he's watching them, so wherever he was at the onset of Shabbat is where the animal could go, even though you own the animal. So you might have a different tchum than the animal's tchum. Okay, we're talking about that case. Now, what's the case? So it went out of its own tchum, and it's in your tchum. So you can call it, even though it will now travel out of its tchum. Now, over there's no chash, there's no worry that the person might ever leave his tchum, because it's within the person's tchum. The only issue is that the animal is going to, the animal itself is going to come back in, which is not a problem. So the only problem is that you might go and bring it back. But okay, so therefore, there's no shash that the person's going to walk out of his tchum. Okay? I'm not going to walk out of my tchum to get it. But whenever there's an Isser, like standing in cold water, therefore the Chacham made a Gzeira. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Meshchikat Tzamanim Gufa Tanoi. This Isser of Shchikat Tzamanim is a Machloket Tanoi. The Tanya Behema She'achal Kashinin. An animal that was eating too much of these beans, and he got sick. Lo Yurid Tzena B'Chatzer B'Shul She'Titrapeh. You can't make it run in the Chatzer, so it should get some loose bowels, and therefore get healed. Because it's a Gzeira of Shchikat Tzamanim, you're doing medicinal acts. Rabbi Yoshi Amatir. He said, by Refu'ah v'Behema, there's no issue of Shchikat Tzamanim, even though there is a Gzeira of Shchikat Tzamanim Refu'ah by Adam, but when it came to healing animals, they were more lenient. Okay? Because a person is not, we're not worried that a person is going to get so concerned about his animal, like about a person, that he might come to grind samimanim for his refuah. Okay? And Rava Paskin, he expounded that halacha follows Rabbi Yoshia, that there is no gzeira of shrikat samanim for an animal. Omar Mar lo yetze azav b'kish shelo v'lo b'izim sheb'kish v'dadein. The zav. What is it? I gotta go. Okay. It's very possible that today you'll find another daf online, and you can check it out there. Kol Tov.